Well, welcome everyone to our leadership development webinar series, and this is the fourth in our series. My name is Judy Feldhausen, and my co-host today is the famous Bob Wischmeier. And what we're going to talk about is the ongoing lessons that we started several months ago on John Maxwell's book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. And this week we're actually going to talk about the law of navigation. And the book actually starts with a quote that I just absolutely loved, and it is, anyone can steer the ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. And that is so true. Back in my younger days, I was in corporate life, and I was a manager of 250 distributors. And as I reflect back on that management, that is exactly what it was. I was not the navigator. I had bosses who made all the decisions and the policies for all of the distributors, and my job was to carry out those policies and procedures and to support the distributors in their process. So as navigators, we definitely have some additional responsibilities. Isn't that true, Bob?
Well, it is. You know, I was thinking, like, I worked for a number of years for an LTL freight company out of Missoula, Montana, and I was operations director for that company. I didn't own the company, but I was the operations director. My responsibility was to take care of all the men, all the equipment, and make sure all the hazardous materials, and make sure everything got where it needed to go. And my motto basically was that if there was a problem, I'd take care of the problem. I didn't take the problems back to the owner. I resolved the problems and took him back the information of what had happened and what we did to resolve it. I never took the problems and dropped them on his desk. But there's a difference. You know, I was in that position where I could lead those guys. But the big issues were handled by the boss. I just took care of the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah. And so as a navigator or as a leader using this law of navigation, there are certain things that we need to do in our businesses to effectively go through the process. And so what we're going to do today is to go through this and additional things so that you have a sense of what navigators do in their day-to-day life. Looking at, first of all, making sure that you see the trip ahead. Really, what that means when I think about those words is really knowing where you are and really looking at where you want to go. See where the destination is. What is the desired destination to be able to get to your goals? What are they? What is the big picture? Really look at the whole thing as a big picture, or as a map, so to speak, and kind of start the navigation process.
I was thinking too, Judy, as we were preparing for this, we talked not long ago about process, the law of process, how it's not an event, but a process that you go through. And so as we get into this a little bit farther, I'm going to draw on an event, but the processes that led to that event. So I'll get to that here in just a couple of minutes. But you know, the next, Judy, were you done with that? I didn't.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
So we need to learn to draw on past experiences. This is just extremely important for all of us. It's in life, in business, with our children, our families. There are so many firsts that you have to deal with as a human, the first-time experiences. But once you've got that first-time experience done and out of the way, it's a lot easier moving forward. The next time a situation like that comes up, you're loaded. You've reloaded your gun and you're ready to go. Past success, past failures that you've experienced can be a valuable source of information, but also for wisdom. Successes teach you what you're capable of doing, and they give you confidence, but failures often teach you the greater lesson. Excuse me.
And that's so true, Bob, that what you said about it being a lesson. There's so many people that look at their failures as exactly that, a failure, and don't draw the lesson from it.
Well, that's right. They cover up the error instead of analyzing it or learning from it or pondering on what's happened. A whole bunch of years ago, Judy, I worked with the Boy Scouts of America for, I don't know, a long time, 40, 45 years probably, in one capacity or another. I worked with a lot of kids. And it's just something that's worked for me. You know what I'm saying? Everybody needs to be involved somehow in their community, and that's been one of those community experiences that has worked well for me. A long time ago, I think it was in 1979, I took a group of young men on a 65-mile backpack trip through the Bitter Selway wilderness. And we had a remarkable experience, but we also had some epic failures. I learned some things on that backpacking trip with all those boys that has really served me well through the years, because I've been on a lot more Boy Scout experiences, whitewater rafting and mountain biking and hiking and all those kinds of things with these kids. But I learned from those past experiences. I sat down when that trip was over, figured out what went well, what went wrong, and there were as many things that went wrong as gone well. I could have lost some kids back in the Selway if things had gotten a little crazier than they were. The point being, when you're done with an experience, sit down, think about it, learn from the mistakes that you've made, and then move forward with that experience. It's really helpful. Also, while I'm thinking of that, I mentioned pondering. John Maxwell calls that reflective thinking. I think that's a great term, reflective thinking. I've always referred to that as pondering. Here's what he says about it. I just wanted to read these quick 5 little points there. He says, reflective thinking gives you true perspective, which is correct. You look back and ponder through what's gone on, and it gives you a clear perspective of what's happened. It gives you emotional integrity to your thought life, increases your confidence in decision-making, clarifies the big picture, and takes a good experience and makes it a valuable experience. Kind of Jim Collins' good to great idea. Judy?
Yes, that's so true, Bob. And it has to be done after the fact. It can't be done. You can't ponder on it while you're trying to work on it.
Yeah, that's right.
It takes so much energy and thought process to get through, especially if it is something that is life-threatening. You need to deal with it in the here and now. One of the other things that John Maxwell talks about is listening, and this is one of my favorite things. I know I'm a talker. I've been a talker for a long time, but when I learned how to listen effectively, it made such a difference in my business and other experiences that I have. I've gotten so enamored with listening that I get to teach it. It's such an important concept. As a navigator, I think we have to listen to ourselves, to what we want, to what we need. We have to listen to our customers. I mean, really, if we listen to our customers, they'll tell us what they want. You just have to learn to ask some very basic questions, and the customer will tell us, but we have to hear exactly what they are saying. And it also, we also have to listen to what's going on around us in the marketplace, in the company, with other distributors, other leaders, to gain knowledge from what other people are doing. So we're not in this business alone. That's the beauty of network marketing, is we do have the support of many, many other people. We have the support of Synergy Worldwide. We need to listen to the wisdom of other people and, really decide on what is important, what is not important, but what is important to us, not what is important to someone else. I think that's a big lesson, to make those decisions for ourselves, and to really take in all the sides and then make our decisions.
Yeah, there's another thought that I have too with regard to learning to listen. Sometimes in the process of listening, there will be those who will be critical of what we've done or how we've done it. Judy, we had that experience with that 21-day challenge call just the other day, where there was a criticism with regard to that 30-minute call that we had. That happens in life. You can't please everyone. You can't be all things to all people. And so sometimes people are going to be critical. I think that the important thing for a good leader is to learn to look for some measure of truth in what's been said. It may be hard to hear, may be difficult, it may be wrong, but oftentimes within that criticism there will be something there that we need to learn. And so, it takes, I guess, wisdom and courage and maybe some life experience to learn to do that. But I think it's something that we need to, I know it's something that we need to do. We need to look for the truth, or any lace or thread of truth in criticism, and then, learn from that.
That's right, Bob. And that's really where the examine comes in, right? To take that information and really take it apart and examine the good parts and the bad parts, and then move forward. Yeah.
I was, in the process of reading this particular chapter on the law of navigation, part of the chapter talks about using faith and fact. And when I first came across that, I thought, what in the world is that all about? But as I read through this and studied through it, I realized that this little paragraph or two that Maxwell has in his book is really, really important. Being able to navigate for others, it requires a leader to possess a positive attitude. You need to be positive. Nobody will follow you around if you're kicking the dirt and always moaning and groaning about things. That's just not how it works. You have to have faith that you can take people all the way to where it is that you want to go. That's extremely important. You've got to have that positive attitude. But on the other hand, you've also got to be able to see the facts realistically. If you can't minimize obstacles or rationalize your challenge and still lead effectively, you just can't. You can't minimize what could go wrong. There's a quote here from a guy named Bill Eason, who I have no idea who he is, but it says, realistic leaders are objective enough to minimize illusions. They understand that self-deception can cost them their vision. This is extremely important. I've worked with people before who had some pretty grandiose ideas. Sometimes they were awesome. It helps you to be around people that have that bigger picture, that bigger view of things. But there has to be a measure of reality that fits into that. Balancing optimism and realism, intuition and planning, faith and fact can be very difficult, but that's what it takes to be effective as a navigating leader. I mentioned Jim Collins' Good to Great book. Jim Collins said, you must retain faith that you'll prevail in the end, and you must also confront the most brutal facts of your current reality. So there you have it, Judy, and we've mentioned before that There are people who will tell you, get into a network marketing business and you're going to become a millionaire and you don't even have to do anything. That is absolute hogwash. That's not how life works. And so have faith moving forward as a synergy leader, but face the reality. There are issues, there are problems, there will be challenges along the way.
That's so true. And so looking at the 6 things, this is the stuff that leaders do on a day-to-day basis. But amongst all this, we actually need to have a whole strategy. And you said something, Bob, about, network marketers have the belief that they become a distributor and then all of a sudden in 30 days they'll be rich. And, we both know, and in fact, I would believe that everyone on this call today knows that it's not as easy as that. It's a very simple concept and it can be done, but it does take a strategy. There are processes and plans that you must navigate through to become a success in any network marketing business, not just synergy.
Right. Well, it applies to everything in life. If you're going to go somewhere, you need to have some kind of a roadmap. You've got to navigate your way to wherever you're going, whatever you're doing.
Yeah. So we need to plan ahead. And I know you have something to say about this, Bob.
Yeah. You need to plan ahead, you guys. So there is a term that Judy and I have learned. What I've always referred to as an acronym is not an acronym. It's an acrostic. Judy, tell these guys what an acrostic versus an acronym is.
Yeah, so I thought I was the queen of acronyms, but evidently I am not. I'm the acrostic queen, which doesn't fall off the tongue as easily.
Yeah.
So an acronym is actually taking a longer thing and shortening it by using the letters, like NATO. NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It's using those first letters and then making a word out of that. An acrostic, on the other hand, is actually using the first letter of a phrase and creating a word out of that phrase. So we actually have an acrostic. We
have one. Roll to the next slide, would you?
I will.
There's the word plan, and that's what we call an acrostic, not an acronym. So we're going to talk about this for just a minute, you guys. We need to move right along here because we're quickly running out of time. But I wanted to talk about, if I could, an experience that I had. I mentioned events versus process. But to create an event, there is a process involved. Predetermine a course of action. So I wanted to mention about the Spokane symposiums that we put together several years ago. Steve Lancaster, John Hewlett, myself, we planned ahead to make those symposiums happen. It took me about 3 months of daily work to put that very, very first Spokane symposium together. It was Dan was there. It was in the beautiful Davenport Hotel in Spokane, Washington. But I planned for months. I knew the course of action. I knew what we were going to do. We need to lay out our goals. So we had to do all of this before we ever got to the event. And what were those goals going to be? We wanted to increase sales. We wanted to create some excitement about Synergy Worldwide. So we set up a beautiful setting in the Davenport Hotel. We brought in Dr. Siva. Dr. Berger came from Germany. We had people from all over that came to help us with the science of all of this. We wanted to put it into a venue that was beautiful, get people excited. And we wanted to spare no expense, so to speak. We wanted it to be a high-end, top-notch experience. But along the way, we had to adjust our priorities a little bit. We just had to. It was in February. There was bad weather. People had to fly into Spokane. We couldn't get some of the rooms that we wanted to have at the hotel. There were costs involved, and we were negotiating trying to get better deals on rooms and putting menus together. We built gift boxes, gift bags for all of the people, and we got product from Synergy, etc. We had to adjust things as we came along, and we had to notify key personnel in order to pull it off. I spent hours and hours on the phone and emails with the Davenport Hotel people, with Steve Lancaster down in Utah, with the people we were inviting. We had Berger all the way over from Germany. Dr. Siva came up. Dan Austin came up. We had a couple of different symposiums. We planned it out. We knew what our course of action was going to be. We knew what goals we wanted to have in mind. We adjusted as we went, and we made sure that everybody who was involved knew. Because we had to charge people like $150 per person for the event just to cover our basic expenses and not go bankrupt in the process. So we planned ahead. Judy?
That is so important, Bob. And along with that, let's get ahead and talk about furthering our navigation experience. And when I was looking at this, I was actually thinking about the process that we've just been through with the microbiome. And you know, the amount of time from the time we heard about it until it was actually launched. And for some people, you know, they wanted it to happen more quickly. But for a lot of us, we needed to have that time to accept and to learn all about the microbiome, about the gut, about the symptoms, about the triggers. Allow the time for creating some marketing ideas and plans and decisions that we were going to make. That all takes time, and time for acceptance. I know when I do cardiovascular screenings, I can actually tell on part of that screening if someone allows change in their life quickly or slowly. And for most people, it is slow. Most people are not change agents. They want to have it sink into their bodies and allow that time for that change to happen. It's difficult to change a long-term habit overnight. We need that time to do that. And when that happens, we really need to start heading into action once we've got to that place. And, you know, it was so exciting for me to actually start on the microbiome and to be with other people in that place, to start working on the microbiome.
Well, you know, Judy, not to interrupt, excuse me for interrupting. I was just going to say that this is what we do too as Synergy distributors when we pass resources on to people. When you give people information, for example, about Pro-Arginine Plus or any of our products, everybody needs to mute their phones or their computers. Anyway, but to allow time for acceptance. In other words, I had a long conversation with a friend a couple of nights ago about Pro-Arginine Plus. Gave him a brochure to look at. He went home with that brochure. I sent him some information by email to allow him some time to do his own study. And so, there you go. Yeah.
So important. And if we look at how Eric Worre does it, we actually ask for permission to follow up in a respectable amount of time, but actually asking the person if, you know, when do you think you'll look at it? And if it's Sunday, if I call you on Sunday, will you have looked at it? So allowing time for customer to look into the information. And then for us to head into action, because without the action, nothing is going to happen. Follow up follow through, however you wanted to say it, is imperative. I don't know the percentages, but it's probably less than 0.5% of people that get information from me and then head into the action of calling me to place an order. I need to actually do the heading into action part.
Yeah, that's exactly right. At that juncture, you have to move forward. We talk about quality exposures, how important quality exposure is. You get that information to people, talk to people, and then after you've done that, it's a matter of making things happen, moving forward, following through, and making things happen. So you got to be proactive.
Yeah, and it doesn't always happen immediately, right? The next step is to expect problems. And so if we know that they are going to arrive, we are better prepared to handle them. You know, it's when we're blindsided by that, oh my gosh, I've never heard that before, I don't know, that we get the deer in the headlights action. But if we know that something is going to happen, when we expect something to happen, we can better deal with it. Just like back to the microbiome, when we went through that, so many people started to either get a headache or have some stomach challenges, and other things that happened to them personally that they didn't expect. So, sometimes I know with the doctors that I'm working with, we actually have a list of these are some things you may expect through this process, so that they don't just give up because, this happened to me and I didn't like it, so therefore I'm not going to go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. I mentioned this to Judy when we were talking on the phone the other day, but I know when in the process of raising my family, and I have a large family, but I always had this great hope that my kids would know the answers before the questions got asked, that we would be planning ahead as parents, expecting that there are going to be problems coming along down the line, but that we would prepare the kids. On my daughter, Jess, my oldest child is my daughter, Jessica. I have 4 boys and 1 girl. And when Jess left home for school, she'd been gone for a few months, and we went down to see her. And as we were leaving that day, I was hugging her, and she and I have always been very, very close. She's one of my closest friends. And I said to her, Jess, did I teach you enough before you left home? And she said, yeah, Dad, but you didn't teach me about being homesick. It was a sweet experience. But we expect to have problems in life and in business. Plan ahead.
That's right. That's right. And always look toward the positive.
Oh, yeah.
Because we can dwell on the negative. We can dwell on, the website that's not perfect, right?
Yeah, exactly. Complain up, but be positive down. You can moan and groan to your upline. That's fine, or to corporate. But when you're talking to people that you have sponsored, personally sponsored, people that are in your downline, always be positive. Always point to the success. Don't share problems with your downline. You want them to be excited about things going forward.
Exactly. And together figure out a solution to whatever that problem or that challenge is, because there's a way around it. I know I had a challenge the other day getting back into my website after I'd been there, and I could have just been upset and gone to the old website, but I called customer service and said, I'm having this problem. What can I do? How can I make it right? And they were so wonderful and helped me get to where I needed to be so that my website would, work the way it needed to work. And I'm so appreciative of customer service and their willingness to help with whatever challenges we have, even if they don't know, because she didn't know the answer, but she got it for me and called me back. So, you know, be appreciative of the little parts of success in those problems.
You know, during the last several months, as a leadership group, between us, you guys, between Dan and Jean and Judy and David Munoz, myself, and Dane and others, we've kicked around the issues that we've seen from corporate. We talk about, you know, things amongst us, and in a very, we play hardball, if you will, you know, when it comes to corporate issues. But at the end of the day, always, and I've heard this again and again and again from our leadership group, but we have the finest products in the world. We have products that make a difference. We have products that change people's lives in a positive way. And always we would end our conversations, even if we were upset with corporate for something, with the simple fact that, but at the end of the day, we have awesome products. And that has been really the strength and the foundation that has moved us forward, even when we have had a bit of angst with something with corporate. Is that fair to say, Judy?
Yes, and I would say you're so right, Bob, and never let your customer know that you are upset with your company, because it gets magnified to them.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So we have to really be careful on how we speak to others about you know, the good and the bad. Not to lie. I would never ever say that someone should lie about something. But you know, there are two sides of every story. We have a gentleman running for governor here in Illinois, and you can just imagine. And he has an ad going saying, you know, there is right and wrong, and there is only one way to go, and that's the right way. And I would tend to probably disagree with that, because I think there are several ways for a ship to steer its course and get to the destination. And they are always the ethical way, but there are several choices that we can make, right choices to get to a problem. And I guess that's where we have to really review our plans and do it and make adjustments and really make changes if necessary, but always do it with responsibility and with integrity, that what we are doing in that review is up to our personal standards and the standards of the people that we work with.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to be pretty careful talking about Illinois politics, though, Judy. You know,
it's a challenge.
Illinois politics. Anyway, always point to the success. I love that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And at the end of the chapter, John Maxwell does have a secret that he shares.
He has a secret. And what is it?
Yes.
Preparation.
His secret is preparation.
See a little Cub Scout there?
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that a picture of one of your sons?
Oh, could be. No, my boys are way cuter than that. You know, seriously, I have 4 sons, you guys, and all 4 of my boys are Eagle Scouts. Now, only 1 out of 200 boys ever make it to being an Eagle Scout. That's a huge, huge deal. But it's because of their mom. Behind every Eagle Scout, there's a pushy mother, and that would have been Bonnie. But boy, I'll tell you what, it has served those boys well. It really has.
And would you say preparation was part of that, Bob?
Absolutely. On the part of the boys and their mother. But yeah, be prepared. It just makes good sense. Plan ahead.
It really does. It really does. And so I believe that's the end of our presentation today. We're just about on time, Bob. I'm so proud of us.
Yeah, we did well. What about questions? Or comments.
Yes, yes. So if anyone wants to get this book, this is what it looks like. It is available on the back office of my website. You're more than welcome to click the link there. It'll bring you right to the book, or you'll get it however you want. But it's a wonderful book. Short read.
Oh, it's awesome. Well, I think Janice Smith said it's the best leadership book she's ever read.
Yeah, yeah, it is. So do we have any questions before we wrap this up today?
Edie, this is Tracy.
Hey, Tracy.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Missed you at the launch on Thursday, but I'm sure that you were on Facebook Live.
I was. If you could have seen my comments on the board, I was there really almost in person. I talked so much on Facebook.
Oh, it's wonderful. The product is amazing. You guys are amazing. I really want to thank you guys for being a support to my team members as well as your team members. And I just want to thank you guys for everything you do. We are a Synergy family, and I love our corporate. I love all of you, and I just wanted to thank you again for all you do.
Oh, thank you, Tracy. And I feel the same way. It was Tracy and I, along with about 15 other people, went through the Fortify group together, and it was so wonderful. I feel like we're all part of even a closer part of family now.
Yeah, I do. So I'm going to be reaching out to you at another date. I'll give you a text and see when we can hook up. And again, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Looking forward to it.
Thanks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Hello, this is Donald.
Hey, Don.
I just want to say how fortunate and glad to be part of this group. I learned quite a bit. And when Bob shared his story about the scouts, it reminded me of when in my corporate years, I chaperoned a group. I was with this company called, I forgot. Anyway, I was chaperoning some kids up to they were asked to at the last moment, and I was wondering whether or not I can do it. And I was, encouraged to do it. And the information and awesome. And Bob, you just brought back to me real aware. Thank you. Thank you, Judy, as well.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, Don.
Getting some funny feedback on the call.
Yes.
Okay, guys, thanks so much.